You're the number one kid in your family. You want to get it all just right.
Or maybe you're a wrecking ball of energy, a feisty kid whose brain is quirky and bright.
Are you the quiet type who lives in your head now? Or are you off in outer space?
Could you be the kid they call the little brat? You just want in but no one gives you a place. You're a maze of mysteries and doubts. You're a maze of ups and downs and outs.
You're a maze of possibilities. You're a maze of extraordinaries.
And hidden in the zany maze that is you, I'll be blunt, there's a treasure that's worth the hunt.
Maybe you're the goofy, glorious one, full of fire and fantasy.
Are you the kind who likes to hold it all down? Your love is deeply rooted to the ground. You've got your faults for sure. Sometimes you feel just like a pile of manure. But join the club, that's how it is. We're all sloppy like a wet dog kiss.
You might think there's just no hope because you're a screw-up or a great big dope. But join the club, oh my friend. This is the glory of being human. La 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 la
la la la la la.
We're full of pieces that don't seem to fit together, a jumbly mess of jubilee.
But there's a seed of something great in me and you. We're full of wonder, yes it's true. We're a maze of mysteries and doubts, a maze of ups and downs and outs.
A maze of possibilities, a maze of extraordinaries.
And hidden in the zany maze that is you, I'll be blunt, there's a treasure that's worth the hunt.
You're a maze of mysteries and doubts. You're a maze of ups and downs and outs.
You're a maze of possibilities. You're a maze of extraordinaries.
There's a treasure that is hidden in you.
Yes, it's true.
You're amazing.
No, you're amazing.
I'm amazing?
And I'm amazing too. We're amazing.
Are you guys amazing? You feel amazing? How amazing are you today? You're amazed. You're amazing. And that's what I wrote when I wrote this song. You know, and by the way, how many of you have seen that commercial about the guy who goes on a date with his V-neck t-shirt all stretched out and ugly? I laughed at that the other day and I thought, oh, that's so stupid. No one would ever go out like that. And then I put on my V-neck t-shirt today and I thought, I'm looking just as crappy as the guy in the commercial about his stretched out V-neck. Hello, amazing indeed. Hello, love it. Twitter and Periscope note. I know, that's right. All right, you guys, so I'm just going to tell you a little story. So a few years ago, I was going through one of the hardest seasons I could even imagine as a parent. And my oldest child, who is now one of my best buddies, you know, he took me through the ringer. On purpose, good. It was good stuff. He was asking questions that needed to be asked. He was challenging things that needed to be challenged. But at the time, I didn't know. Here's some illustrations from the book. Isn't that cute? I didn't know how it was going to turn out. And there was a lot of brokenness. And he basically wasn't sure he was buying what Mom was selling and what I valued the most and wanted to give. He was questioning all those things. It was a dark time. And then all of a sudden, this woman right here waltzed through my head. And this is her picture. Here she was, and she was sitting in her bed. Faye Folsom gulped down the lump in her throat and held her breath. She hoped desperately that this would shut off the leaking hose behind her eyeballs, which threatened to flood her tear ducts and leave her in a snotty puddle. She sat across from Constance, her oldest daughter, whose restrained anger and carefully chosen words cut her as much as any tongue lashing might have. Nothing prepared Faye for the words Constance squeezed out of her knotted insides that evening. It wasn't a childhood I remember particularly fondly, Mom, and I don't believe in your imaginary world anymore. That's the opening of the book. There's Mrs. Faye Folsom slobbering up in the middle of the night while her husband snores, going, oh my gosh, my eldest child, Constance, doesn't believe in wonder anymore. Wonder's the supernatural realm that Faye and her husband know exists, and they do everything they can to try to find it and take their kids there. And it's the one thing they want to give their kids, and it's the one thing that's threatened. Because you see, the system, the elite, the grown-up factory, and Ms. Imperia Beasley, they don't allow people to believe in wonder, and they crush kids' imaginations in the grown-up factory, so they will never find it. So this family risks everything to keep their kids out of the grown-up factory, to show them wonder. And along the way, that threatens everything. Everything. And they get tossed into this other world. See, when I first got the idea of the book, I just heard these words, Mrs. Amazing in the Seed, Mrs. Amazing in the Seed. And I had no idea who Mrs. Amazing was, and knew nothing about seeds, and I didn't know why anybody would care about her or seeds. And then I had this experience, and I realized Mrs. Amazing was bawling her eyes out in bed because she wanted to give her kids something so amazing, so truly amazing, because of wonder. And they risked everything and ran afoul of establishment forces that threatened to tear their family literally apart and kill their daughter's imagination forever. And at the moment of their greatest crisis, right here, when the judge tells them that your kids have to be sent away to social repair centers, this family is really, really scared, Mom and Dad. And they get tossed into this realm, and they meet a gatekeeper named Mr. Keys. And Mr. Keys has these amazing keys on his hat. It looks like a puzzle. And each one of these pulls out on a string, and it unlocks these roods. He unlocks roods with his key. And they travel inside on a cellular level and experience flower reproduction and the true reality, the power of seeds from the inside out as a completely immersive experience in the world, the land of wonder. So what is it about seeds that teach us anything at all? Well, you know, we have a seed kingdom. This powerful metaphor of seed is really, really huge in Scripture, but I knew nothing about seeds at all. And when I found out what they really are, it blew my mind. Somehow interacting with flower propagation and reproduction from the inside out changes these people and makes them able to deal with their very worst fear when their family is torn apart. So I wrote this book, and every day I was like, I don't know what's coming next. I don't know what's possible, because I didn't have an outline and I didn't know what was going to happen. And I'd sit down every day and go, what's going to happen to these people? And the day their kids got taken to the social repair centers, I was so shocked and upset. And then I thought, oh my gosh, how are they going to get out? How are they going to wonder what's going to solve this problem for them? And so the whole book wound up being revelation every day. And then I had it professionally edited, and I had a bunch of people read it, and there's still a lot of imperfection. It's my first book, and now I have a different kind of editor who helps me write, and really has taken my writing to another level. And I have 5 books coming out that predate this book in the storyline. And writing this changed me, and it changes families. I had kids say, grandma say that her grandchild read it, or I don't know if they read it together, and the grandchild for the very first time talked about what was happening in the grown-up factory to him in school. Other families have been encouraged because they have distance between themselves and their kids, and brokenness, and kids have decided they don't want to follow in their mom and dad's footsteps. And other kids are just delighted to find these brothers. The brothers Chance in Charleston. Chance blows things up to see how they work, and Charleston is the deep cello player, poet, thinker. And then there's little Chief with his red hair and freckles, and he just wants to be the boss. Then, of course, there's the oldest perfect child, Constance. And Faye Folsom is always leaning over the chasm of any possibility to get closer and closer to wonder, while her husband is firmly grounded. So I fell in love with this little family, and knowing them changed me, although I'm sure you'll find yourself in there. And then when I was done, and I did the audiobook, I wanted to write a song, which you just heard. You're a maze of mysteries and doubts. You're a maze of ups and downs and out. You're a maze of possibilities. You're a maze of extraordinaries. And hidden in the crazy maze that is you, I'll be blunt, there's a treasure that is worth the hunt. And that's what the song says. And I'm super excited about it. I haven't really thought about this book in a long time because I'm writing other ones. But now that it's holiday, Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's, this is a good book. And if you want to, it's a great read along for kids 10 to 14. I'm just telling you this because the story of it was kind of fun. And it also ties into fear-free living in the sense that I never, ever, ever, ever believed I would do anything like this, or do painting, or any of the things I'm doing now. But the way I got there was by dealing with the core fear of the thing I was avoiding the most as an artist, which was the performance anxiety. And it's amazing, my friends, when you get free in one area, you'll find out that there's way more possible for you than you ever imagined. And now I'm going to talk to you about that for a minute, but I just wanted to tell you, oh, and by the way, let me show you. This is Cornelius, the family's hound dog. Isn't he cute? And little Alexander said, this book is really funny and interesting. I never could guess what was going to happen next, and I couldn't wait to find out. Isn't that cool? So if you order on MrsAmazing.com, I send you a free CD, one of my CDs, as a gift, and you can get the 28-day adventure, which gives you the audiobook and the Wandossery and special links to plant reproduction videos and the songs that go with it. And it goes to your loved one a little bit every day in their inbox, along with the full audio files and everything at the end. And you get a copy of the book, and you get a digital book, and. Okay? So if you go to MrsAmazing.com and use the code WONDER, you can get $5 off that. And I shipped out some orders today. Somebody made a mistake and tried to order something and didn't put any personal information in there. So I had to refund you because I have no idea where to send a book when nobody tells me who they are, where they live. In any event, it's really true that one area of expansiveness in you, expanding in to take and own territory, can change you forever. Will change you forever. Because there's a reason why Barnabas, you do need a copy. But let me just tell you, I need you guys to place all your orders in the next week, because the last day I'm going to be doing any shipping is like the next Friday, Saturday, because I'm going to be I'm actually going to take a little hiatus from y'all. I'm going to be gone the 21st through the 2nd, and I'm going to be working on book 3 in the series. So we need a little time away, and I needed some time to focus on this next book and on this writing. So in any event, if you want this book or the 28-day adventure, go to mrsamazing.com. Get your orders in as soon as possible, because at the end of next week, I'll be gone. I'll be out of state and won't be able to ship for you. I mean, we could make sure your loved one gets it in January, but, you know. Here's the deal. I'm shocked and surprised that I'm doing 3/4 of what I'm doing, because there was a time when you're very terrorized and afraid. You're just hoping that you can find a little piece to deal with your basic life, right? If you're really traumatized, and especially if you're dealing daily with some kind of chronic issue or situation that takes you to the end of yourself on a daily basis, and it constantly is bringing up fear, fear is being triggered. Most of us are so avoidant and so anxious and so traumatized by this sense of not being safe. That was my thing. I didn't feel safe. And the funny thing is it got to the point where it was so subtle. I didn't realize I was constantly being threatened, and threatening voices telling me, making my world smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's what fear does. Fear doesn't leave you alone for 90% of your life and then just take a slice. Fear is constantly increasing and growing. That is the nature of how it works in you. And you can look good on the outside. You can look strong and so forth. But that area where you avoid and you hide is really the thing that's going to motivate your unconscious thinking. It's going to fill your mind and your heart more than you can ever imagine, because what you push down and refuse to deal with takes way more, what we say, psychic energy, meaning psychological, emotional, neurological energy to push something down and avoid it than to begin to deal with it. It's just the truth. It's like a pressure cooker. Fear that is buried and hidden and undealt with and you're living in avoidance is like a pressure cooker. And it focuses so much energy internally. And it's better, you know, the pressure cooker, you get to let it release. And this is what we do. This is what you need to do in getting to the roots of your fears and getting to the things that fear is telling you, because fear has told you a lie about yourself. Fear has told you a story about yourself, and it's always a lie. Always. Did you know that? Did you know you can know that? It's really true. Anything that is fear-based is not truth-based. So anything that creates fear in you is by its definition based on a lie. The problem is that fear-filled thoughts associate themselves with logic. Okay, so you're in a hard place, you're in a state that is stealing your rights, the walls are closing in terms of what the government is doing, things that are logical, things that are factual. Maybe you're going to have to face something that does create a lot of physical stress, or you're in the process of receiving God's healing for a situation in your life, and you deal daily with some physical fallout or whatever it is. And I'm not saying that's not true. We talked about this yesterday. There's truth, and then there's what Paul said was, call the things that are not as though they are. There's a higher truth, a higher reality. So by very definition, God has not given us a spirit of fear. There is no fear in heaven. There is no fear in love. And he tells us a couple hundred times in the Bible, fear not, it's a commandment. So the things that create fear are not, cannot by definition be based on truth, love, kingdom of God, higher reality. Okay? Now, if somebody comes after you in a parking lot late at night, and you get the fight or flight acute stress response, that is the function of your body to keep you safe. Okay? And it comes with all of the alarm and so on and so forth. And it's doing its thing. And in that case, the fight or flight acute stress, fear, quote unquote, fear, fight or flight fear response is doing you a favor. It's getting you ready to move, to act, and these things. And that's useful. But when you walk around all day upset, depressed, anxious, avoidant, and never feeling safe in your own skin, looking around the world, constantly seeing that it's darker and bigger and scarier, and you're getting more and more intimidated and bullied and afraid to the point where you don't walk in peace, you don't walk in joy, you walk in constant vigilance about how bad it is all the time. And that's very subtle because it can be to the extreme depending on your circumstance and where you are. Let's take it to an extreme of Christians in Iran, Christians in persecuted countries, right? Persecuting countries. They have literal realities of power seeking to bring physical harm to them. And yet we read that Paul says that I have learned in all things to be content. Greater is in he than he that is in the world. Peace, Paul talks about the peace that passes all understanding, guarding your heart and mind. So Paul learned in this, even the very reality of what is present and alarming, he learned to call the things that are not called from heaven, what didn't look like it's here yet, but I'm calling that in. But for most of us, fear is much more subtle, and it's related to anxiety, and it's related to the stories that fear tells us. And when we're dealing with fear, if we really look at it, it's lying. Because does God promise to give us everything we need? Does God promise to supply all our needs according to our riches and glory? So if that's you needing to get something or have access to something or deal with a tyrannical government in your area or a tyrannical person in your life, does God not promise a higher reality of taking care of you and making sure you get what you need? Is not the Bible the entire story of people being backed against the wall that have to live out of another reality, because that's more true than everything that's happening? It's like the servant of Elijah who says, open his eyes, we're surrounded by God's angels, right? So we want to get to the point where we live out of that open-eyed reality of that. Because what is the enemy telling you? You're going to die. You're not going to have enough. God's not going to provide for you. You're going to get screwed. Your kids are going to get taken away from you. You're not going to have the care you need. You're not going to, you're going to be left out in the cold. The government's going to come and haul you away. All these things. Are there realities to this? Yes, but the lie is consistently that you can't be okay. You can't have peace and you can't be safe, because really God's going to leave you out there screwed. You're going to be screwed. You're going to be hung out to dry. The reality of whether he is who he says he is to provide for us and take care of us and do what we say is either real or it isn't. It's either true or it's not true. So when fear comes and attacks and we react, it's because fear is lying and saying, did God really say, I've got you? When you need access to certain things and you need provision for certain things. Did God really say that? Ugh. Why don't you come over here to the tree of good and evil, the knowledge of that, and let's live in gloom and doom for a while and focus on all the rational things that could happen to you and why it's so bad and why you should be terrorized and why you're not going to be okay and why you're going to lose your rights and why we're going to hell in a handbasket and all these things. That's the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. That's over there rationalizing based on physical circumstances. Heaven is about, I'm calling the things that are not as though they are, right here. Provision, way forward. He is the way maker. He is the one who opens doors for us. And that becomes then a world of possibility. I don't know how he's going to do it, but he's going to do it. And we have to decide whose story we believe. Do we believe the grand story of what God said about us and what he promised for us and what's possible for us? All things? Or are we going to believe fear's story, which is, oh my gosh, look anxiously around you and see how bad it's getting, just so bad. Now, did God warn Joseph to take Mary and Jesus out to Egypt? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But I imagine Joe slept pretty good until that night. He was in the palm of God's hand. I mean, it was crazy marrying Mary because she looked like maybe she was a fallen woman there for a while. But God spoke to him. And when God spoke and gave him direction, then he became responsible to act on that. But we're not responsible to act in fear and to plan for all the possibilities of evil that could happen to us. So we have to be hyper aware and constantly preparing for the worst, right? I'm a prepared kind of person. I have extra food, I have extra water, I have resources. We got, we've got our Bibles and our guns and the whole thing. But that's more just a function of stewardship and not a function of fear. And so it's just a beautiful thing to realize that when fear comes, it lies. Fear is based on a lie. Because God told us, commanded us not to be afraid, not to receive it. So it can't be the truth. So if you have permission, imagine that. It's possible for you to look at your fear and go, wow, if by definition, fear is not of God, fear is not in love, fear is not in the kingdom, he commands me not to be afraid, God is not a man that he should lie. If that is all true, then I can really assume that what's triggering me right now is a lie. I can assume that the story around what's happening in my life and all the, oh my gosh, like this might be true, but the story about it that fear is telling you, lie. So you have permission. You have permission. You have a responsibility to go, that's a lie. I don't care what looks like here. Okay, here's the diagnosis. Here's the this. Here's the that. But I call the things that are not as though they are. This is coming in. God's coming here. God's providing me for me right now. Fear, you're a liar. Get out. I refuse to give you the microphone. I refuse to give you the megaphone in my head. You do that in one area, even one small area, dealing with something you're very avoidant about or scared about. And if you need to make some changes in your life you need to bring order out of chaos, you need to think of some new options, by all means do it. But do it out of vision, do it out of purpose, do it out of promise, right? And when you begin to deal with an area and you see victory, it really blows open your mind. Like, wow, that felt so good, even this small thing for me to deal with this and stop avoiding it. Because, like, do you know, I had a dear woman in my life, my mother-in-law, she's gone to be with the Lord. And she lived in that time when they lost everything during the Great Depression. So at the end of her life, she kind of started hoarding and stuff. And she'd clean a little bit, and then she'd hoard, and she'd pretend. You know what? Part of that was talking to her. She had a fear that if she cleaned up her house, she'd die. It would be the end of her. There was this weird thing attached to it. A lot of people who hoard, they really feel afraid to let go of things in case they might need them, like they won't have enough, or something should never be wasted, so I can't get rid of it because it has a purpose, right? Think of that hoarding behavior and how depressing that is and how much anxiety is in there. And imagine the freedom and the beauty of being able to clean a room and deal with that. Clean a room, to clean a corner, and to deal with the fear and go, no, that's not true. I'm not going to die if I clean my house. God's not mad at me if I give away something that I can't use. It's drawing me down just because I can't control where it goes. Dealing with the fear. And then you see that people who do start to clean up their houses and confront things and get things done start to have more self-esteem, more value for their lives, their time, their energy, and then it creates this opportunity for more possibility. Like, I start getting free of stage fright. There was a lot of fear in there about enoughness and value and worth and creativity and throwing things out and just seeing what's going to happen without having to be perfect. Well, that sets you up to write books someday, to paint paintings, to create new systems, to do a radio show, to invite people into your house, to pray for the sick, to believe in the supernatural. All starting from that one thing where I go, wait a minute, fear, you're a liar. You've held me down in this little tiny box. And you know what? I'm not going to spend the rest of my life doing this. So let's start now. Let's see what's possible for me. Even in the next 15 minutes, there's going to be more possible for you in the next 15 minutes if you deal with something you're avoiding than if you continue to hang on and avoid. Watch. You watch what happens to you today. When you go do something that makes you anxious and scared, and you go, you know what? Fear's a liar. Anxiety's a liar. Panic's a liar. They lie. They can't tell you the truth. Fear and anxiety cannot tell you the truth. So you're anxious about being hurt. Could you be hurt? Yes, you could be hurt. But Fear is telling you a story where there is no God, there is no way, there is no path, there is no protection. And fear is giving you a black and white, and all or nothing. And not that third way where God makes it possible for you to take the next step with His grace and His help, right? So when you do that thing that makes you nervous today and scares you today, and you deal with that and let this stuff just cycle through, you're gonna find that there's a lot more possible for you. And by the end of the day, you're gonna go, wow, yeah, I do feel like there's more possible for me, right? Okay, so again, guys, enjoy Mrs. Amazing. Enjoy the tune. Let's do something that scares us. But when it scares us, let's stop and say, wow, that thing that made me afraid, completely a lying story, completely a story of lies, completely not the story God is telling me about this situation, right? And if you like the book and you like the music, you want to get the 28-day adventure as a gift for your kids, you can read all about it at mrsamazing.com. You can go on to Subscribestar and subscribe to Julie Lavender. Maybe get monthly coaching with me. Get some special gifts and tips and encouragement from me. And so let's listen to You're Amazing again, because it's such a fun song. Find yourself. You're one of these characters in the song, aren't you? You're amazed, and there's a treasure in you that's worth the hunt.
If you're the number one kid in your family, you want to get it all just right.
Or maybe you're a wrecking ball of energy, a feisty kid whose brain is quirky and bright.
Are you the quiet type who lives in your head now? Or are you off in outer space?
Could you be the kid they call the little brat? You just want in, but no one gives you a place. You're a maze of mysteries and doubts. You're a maze of ups and downs and outs.
You're a maze of possibilities. You're a maze of extraordinaries.
And hidden in the zany maze that is you, I'll be blunt, there's a treasure that's worth the hunt.
Maybe you're the goofy, glorious one, full of fire and fantasy.
Are you the kind who likes to hold it all down? Your love is deeply rooted to the ground. You've got your faults for sure. Sometimes you feel just like a pile of manure. But join the club, that's how it is. We're all sloppy like a wet dog kiss.
You might think there's just no hope because you're a screw-up or a great big dope. But join the club, oh my friend. This is the glory of being human. La 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 la
La la la la la.
We're full of pieces that don't seem to fit together, a jumbly mess of jubilee.
But there's a seed of something great in me and you. We're full of wonder, yes it's true. We're a maze of mysteries and doubts, a maze of ups and downs and outs.
A maze of possibilities, a maze of extraordinaries.
And hidden in the zany maze that is you, I'll be blunt, there's a treasure that's worth the hunt.
You're a maze of mysteries and doubts. You're a maze of ups ups and downs and outs.
You're a maze of possibilities. You're a maze of extraordinaries.
There's a treasure that is hidden in you.
Yes, it's true.
You're amazing.
No, you're amazing.
I'm amazing?
And I'm amazing too. We're amazing.
Guys, I just want to let you know I'm going to be in the car driving. I'm driving to a state, to an undisclosed location, to deal with their issues, to overcome, to be myself, to trample on serpents and scorpions, and do my ministry job and my family job, despite anything that comes up along the way, right? Fear, you liar. Like, I'm going to be fine. The Lord always makes a way for me. I always walk in favor. Glory comes out of me. I heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers. So I'm going to probably do a quick scope from the car, assuming that I have connectivity. And if not, I will see you guys on Monday.